Hey guys, today we are in the Muntons Innovation Centre. Now, Muntons is a multiplier. You might be wondering why a multiplier would have a brewery in it. Let's go speak to Rob and he'll let us know why. So guys, we've got Rob here. Rob, what's going on? Tell us.
So this is the mini brewery that we have here in the Innovation Centre. So this is where we'll be testing everything hot side in terms of grains, in terms of hops, yeast. We've got our kettle back here. So this is a 1 hectolitre brew house. We've got our mash tun, some fermentation vessels and our bottling machine just here. Essentially we're able to make any beer that you would make industrially, all scaled down.
Okay.
So the equipment is designed so that it's the exact same as a big kind of macro scale process, but you can test everything out here. So we'll often have customers come in, say they might have a recipe or something like that. We'll test that 2 or 3 times through here until they're happy with it.
Okay.
From that, we can also turn things into malt extracts, which is what happens in the next room. And we've got all kinds of toys to play around with, basically.
So you guys can pretty much take a recipe, a customer comes to you and says, I want to develop this. Just go through the processes on how a customer would kind of go through that, would they?
Yeah, so typically we would, first of all, obviously we make a lot of malt. So typically we start with that and we call that our canvas.
Okay.
So you're essentially taking the grains, trying to find out what kind of beer they're after. Is it going to be an East Coast, a West Coast, something more traditional? So we'll start with that and then we'll work to, what hops do they want? What kind of fermentation characteristics does it need to be?
Okay.
So we'll be able to make the beer and then finish package it and see what they think of it.
And then from the scaling side of that, this is obviously you said this was
100 litres. So this is 1 hectolitre.
1 hectolitre over here. Now to take it from 1 hectolitre to the next stage of actually commercial brewing, do you guys just use calculations or do you?
Your basic brewing calculations that you would normally use. Fortunately, you can just add a 0 onto the end usually because it's the metric system. But we might work with some US brewers sometimes, but this just means that we can very easily convert everything for them. Okay.
And you might not be able to say, but what beers have actually been developed here?
There are some customers you're allowed to say what they are. Typically, there's many, and a lot of it, to be honest, gets turned into malt extracts. Typically, we'll take worts that we produce on the brew house here, and then we'll run it through our vacuum distillation kit. And so we can develop a whole range of different products from there.
When it comes to other ingredients like yeasts, hops, you get that outsource that, bring them in.
Just order in, as essentially this is very much like doing homebrew, only with much fancier equipment basically. So we'll get yeast in, particularly if it's a very specific yeast, because we're looking at all the ingredients, not just the malt essentially, to build one cohesive recipe.
And is it true that most of the homebrewing side recipes are actually coming from here?
Yeah, from this centre. So most of the homebrew kits that, especially the new releases, will all be developed here, whether that's with a particular hop, a certain fruit addition and whatnot. All gets developed, tried and tested here basically.
Okay. So Rob, just explain to us what we got here and just run us through like a typical brew day.
Yeah, so this is very much like any other brew house in the sense of we start with our grain first. So we'll typically load our grain up into the hopper here. So this is a mash tun vessel, so it's straight up infusion. So the grain will drop down, we'll incorporate some hot liquor or hot water into the mix. Nice and insulated, so we'll get the mash going in here. We kind of use this vessel as an underback / whirlpool vessel. So this moves the wort across to the kettle here. So we've got a full traditional kettle. This is where we'll add our hops, for example. I can then take that back and whirlpool it. We've got a little heat exchanger behind here. So from there, we'll typically cool the wort down. We'll add it to the fermentation vessels and we'll pitch our yeast. And then in a couple of weeks' time, we'll take it over to the bottling machine that's just behind you there and bottle it all up essentially.
So it's pretty much like...
It's just like doing homebrew, it's just that it looks a lot scarier. but it's all the same principles basically.
It's probably about the smallest brewery I've ever been in.
It's got a small brewer, so there you go. Yeah.
We've got a really big one.
But it's all the same process.
Okay, all right, so it's, I mean, and it's all piped in, and you just open a valve here, close the valve there, and kind of...
it's all valves that you would see at a big commercial brewery, but everything is manual. Right. So if anything goes wrong, it's on me basically. Okay.
And how do you handle cooling? Obviously,
So in terms of cooling, we've got glycol jackets for the fermentation vessel. Okay. So we've got a glycol chiller unit, so we can very precisely dial in the temperature. Yeah. And then in terms of knocking out, or cast out, some people would call it, we're just taking it through the heat exchanger with some cold water.
Okay. So guys, we've moved into another room, part of the Centre of Excellence here in Muntons. Rob, tell us where we are now.
So we're currently in the new product development kitchen. So this is where any benchtop work that we want to get done happens. We've got more equipment here to play with. So we've got spray dryers, vacuum distillation, band drying equipment. So basically malt extract in all its forms and functions can be made in this room. Okay. And so we'll dial in colours, sugar content for what the customer needs essentially.
And I know you guys don't deal only with the brewing industry, you're also dealing with the food industry as well. So those sort of things come together?
Yeah, it all comes together here. Okay. Essentially, we're taking the different forms of it and we're trialling it out in different recipes, different food products. Basically, there's a myriad of different things.
And your malts and stuff like that, and your sugar content.
Yeah. Okay.
So in here, you've got quite a few little bits and bobs and machinery and stuff like that. You want to go through them quickly with us?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So Rob, what is this?
So this thing that looks like it's out of Breaking Bad, this is basically a vacuum distillation equipment. Okay. So what you'll do is, it's just like any distillation equipment, whether that's whiskey, gin, vodka. The principle is the same, except that we're going to distillate it under vacuum. Okay. So that lowers the boiling point of whatever you're distilling. Yeah. So for malt extract, that means that we can apply less heat, so you get less colour pickup during your process. And it just stops the product degrading as much when you run the distillation.
Okay. And this is obviously for the distilling industry.
Yeah, we've used this for a number of things. We have distilled whiskey on this in the past, but primarily it's for malt extract. Okay. So everything for the food industry, for brewing, this is the start of that process, basically.
Okay, all right, okay, so on to the next machine.
So this is our spray dryer. So this is primarily for the food industry. So what we're doing is we're taking malt extract that we've just made in its liquid form, and as the name implies, we're going to spray it. So it sprays the liquid as a fine mist, and it dries it very, very rapidly, very, very quickly. So you get a powder that can be readily applied to lots of different food products, and it's quite a fun process to see, really.
Yeah. So this is very similar to that, to the machines inside inside your big plant.
Again, exactly the same. So everything at big commercial scale there is all scaled down here. The working principles are the same, so you can dial in recipes and then scale it back up.
So are you developing new recipes for commercial use or for homebrewing use, or is it just...
This is for commercial use. Particularly if we've got a customer who wants to match a certain spray dried product or find an alternative in form of malt extract. Typically that's what we use this application for.
All right. So yeah, Rob, thank you very much for showing us around. This is an amazing kind of place for things to happen, I suppose.
Pleasure having you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. If you're wanting to check out some of the other videos about Muntons, we've got a few coming out. There's probably a few already up. Check them out in our playlists. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the bell to check out more of our awesome content. Have a nice day. Happy brewing. I'm getting there. I was doing the thumb and everything, and you've ruined it. Ruined the whole thing. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have an awesome day. Happy brewing.